Some ASP.NET web pages can take a long time to respond to the user's input. A good example of this is the primes.aspx page you have worked with many times in this session. In these cases, it's good practice to display an indicator to show the user that the page is loading. This reassures the user that the application has not crashed and stops them from closing their web browser. To begin this lesson, open the Mathland project from your sample files folder. And open primes.aspx in Design View. You're now going to add your loading indicator image to the page. First, expand the Images folder in the Solution Explorer. Now click and drag loading.gif to the area beneath the Calculate Primes button. A dialog appears allowing you to provide additional information about the image, so click OK. Your loading indicator has been added to the page, but you will need to add JavaScript code to display it when the user clicks the Calculate Primes button. You can't use C# code to do this because of the restrictions of ASP.NET's request and response system. When the user clicks the Calculate Primes button, a request is sent to the web server. The web server doesn't send a response back to the user until it has finished calculating all of the prime numbers, so it isn't able to display anything to the user until the calculations are already complete. JavaScript code runs in the user's web browser, so it can display the loading indicator to the user immediately without needing to contact the server. Now select the loading indicator image, and in the Properties window, set its ID property to Image Loading. Now clear its src property so that the image appears as a broken image. It's necessary to do this to work around a bug in some versions of Internet Explorer. Now set the Style property to Display None. The loading indicator image disappears. The CSS code Display None hides the image from view. Now you'll add some JavaScript code to display the loading indicator when the Calculate Primes button is clicked. Select the Calculate Primes button and, in the Properties window, set the OnClientClick property to Show Loading Indicator. This will call the showLoadingIndicator JavaScript function from the web page's source code whenever the button is clicked. Switch to Source View now, and you can see that I have included a showLoadingIndicator JavaScript function near the top of the page. Now add the following code to the showLoadingIndicator JavaScript function. $, begin single quotation marks, hash, image loading, end single quotation marks, end brackets, dot show, open brackets, close brackets, semicolon. This JavaScript code calls the show method of the jQuery JavaScript library. You'll learn more about jQuery in Lesson 8-9. The show method will unhide the loading indicator image. Now, add the following code on the next line. $ bracket quote hash image loading end quote end bracket dot attr begin bracket quote src end quote comma quote images / loading dot gif end quote end brackets semicolon. This code uses jQuery to set the src property of the loading image so that it will display the correct image. The only reason that this is necessary is because of a bug in Internet Explorer that will prevent the loading indicator from animating correctly. In all other web browsers, you could have left the src property alone and simply called the show method to display the image. Now let's test your new progress indicator. View primes.aspx in your web browser. And click Calculate Primes. The loading indicator appears while the calculation is running. When loading is complete, the page posts back. This refreshes the page in your web browser, resetting the loading indicator so that it is hidden again. Close your web browser now and close Visual Studio. You've now completed Lesson 3.8. Display a loading indicator using JavaScript.